All right, number three, what is the sales process that we subscribe to? Is it the two-step sales process? Is it a five-step sales process? Is it an eight-step sales process? One of the things that we need to do, as I get really big on, is the definition of terms. The beginning of wisdom is the definition of terms. And so in defining these terms, we're going to set up a sales cycle that we're going to use for the rest of the lessons. And this sales cycle, I've outlined it below, but it starts with, just having a common language. I'm going to use the one that is my simple modified system, which really starts with, if you look at that funnel, it's everybody that we know. Start with everyone that you know, and especially company-wise. And then we start to narrow it down by trying to find companies that share our values. From those companies that share our values, we start looking for the right buyer. Okay. And remember, this is all because I'm just trying to speed up my sales cycle. So I can't work with everybody. I know that. So I can work with the people who share my values. I know that. I can work with the right buyer inside there, the people who can prioritize budget. And then we need to establish trust, right? There needs to be some form of give and take where I can hear that that we're being open and honest with each other on this, right? So that a no becomes as good as a yes on there. And it means the same thing to me as it does to them because I'm on their side. And then we agree upon a particular goal. So this is this sales cycle. And then once we've agreed on the goal, there's options for how to get there. Chances are, if you're working on big problems, if you're trying to help these organizations achieve particular things they've never achieved before, there's a lot of different ways to get there. And so we want to talk about the different ways so that they can help choose the one that's the right way for them. And then we start the work, right? So that's the sales cycle. So to speed up that sales cycle, that's really, if you take nothing from this, if you're just doing the free part of the lessons and never get into the rest of it, this speeds up most sales cycles. Do you really have shared values? For example, if you are if your organization is efficient and budget conscious and you value speed, you don't want to be with someone who really puts a premium on craftsmanship, detail, precision, and on the other side of that, they really don't care so much about speed. Does that make sense? Right? There's a little bit of a disconnect there. So even if everything else lines up, we're just on the wrong path from the beginning. I'm reminded of, I used to run an apparel business. And in that apparel business, when I was talking to the buyers had that shortcut built in. They wanted to know if who I thought that we shared values with. And they would ask me by saying, Greg, who do you hang with? Where are you on the rack? And they wanted to know if I'm in the middle of a rack, who are on the bookends of that same rack. So if I said something like I was hanging with a brand that was $100, right? It was these are shirts that we were selling. It was more of a premium. But if I were hanging with brands that were more in that $20 range, then I may have been the premium, but I was premium compared to them. Does that make sense? So one is like I was an alternative to the premium. The other one is there. But all they were trying to do was just figure out like where we're at. Because if they didn't carry the super high-end brands, they said to themselves, hey, we just don't carry anything over $50. My answer meant a lot because if I relied on the $100 to build my $50 shirt value, they, on the other hand, were saying, actually, we kind of need you to be the premium and then so that we can sell our $20 shirts on there. So that would be an example of making sure that we were aligned before we got too deep into the conversation, right? It was before I stuck my stuff in their stores, we needed to make sure that we were on the same page. I have an investment guru, so a guy who sells tax credits. And the first shared value is that in order for you to invest in these tax credits, you need to be paying a lot in taxes. So this isn't like, your normal country club griping about taxes type of customer. This is actually you need a corporation that's paying hundreds of millions in taxes to the federal government. And they are the ones that we're first interested in. So that was the first part down, right? It's just you needed to be of a certain size and you needed to have a particular tax liability in order for these tax credits to be interesting to you. It didn't matter if you were interested in the particular tax credit that was being offered. It was really, are you paying enough in taxes to be able to afford this, was the first thing. But then after we started getting into it, it was like that didn't mean that we could sell to all of those people. The first piece that we needed to, or that we uncovered, our secret sauce was it had to be tied to their compensation plan. So the investment people, the people who made these decisions, they needed to actually have a comp plan that rewarded them for this type of investment. If they were rewarded, they're rewarded for the company's growth, it really didn't help them as much as if they were rewarded for the company's net, their profit. So those are just a couple examples that of what that first key is: shared values. And the reason I'm concentrating on that is because if there's anything, even if we're talking to the right buyer, if we're not talking to a company that we can work with, that we share values with, your sales cycle gets bogged down. So you say, gosh, Greg, now that this is like the third lesson and I'm starting to get a feel for what it is that you're saying if we're talking to the wrong companies and if we're possibly spending too much time with the wrong person, that's what bogs down our sales cycle. And I would say, we're really close, right? That whole first end, if we can slow down on the front end and make sure that we're qualifying the right people, we can really speed up things on the back end. And that's where everything just feels better. In the forum, I want you to describe a client that you work with that you do not share values with, because we all have them. Sometimes you don't know until you get in, or sometimes the organization changes how they, what their values are. But don't be too detailed, right? This is just in general. Think of that client and how has your work been affected because there's a misalignment on values. And now, on the other hand, describe one that you actually share the same values with, and how has it affected the work that you do as well as the results that you get from the work, because I'm particularly interested in which group gives you better results. So good luck with that. I'll see you in the forum.